Hey everybody, Austin here again with a quick play. Sort of cheating this time. I am doing Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos. This is a game I've probably covered like 6 or 7 times now on my channel, not counting live streams. But I haven't done a quick play in about 2 months now, so I'm trying to ease my way back into getting dedicated video content out there as opposed to just live streaming. October was a busy month actually. I mainly just streamed. I pumped out a lot of streams during that month, and then I've been just kind of riding that ever since. Now we're into December, and again, I want to ease my way back into dedicated playthroughs like this. I also recently just played this, I think a week ago, on a live stream with my NES clone console I picked up for a measly $12. So even though I haven't really practiced for this playthrough like I usually do with these quick plays, this should be a pretty easy pick up and play kind of playthrough. So what we're going to do is go through the whole game. We're going to actually skip through most of the cutscenes because I don't want this to be like 45 minutes. Ninja Gaiden, the series on NES, is actually, the games are pretty short typically. 1, 2, or 3 if you skip through all the cutscenes. Now if you let all the cutscenes play out, the games are significantly longer. Probably at least 20 to 25 minutes longer. Some of the cutscenes are fairly lengthy in these games, including Ninja Gaiden 2. But yeah, Ninja Gaiden 2 is an amazing game. Probably one of the best games of the 8-bit era, in my opinion. One of the best action games, I should say. There were so many great games during that era, but this is definitely a top-tier action game. Story, maybe not so much. Story execution, anyway, maybe not so much, but the graphics, the sound, the gameplay, and all that stuff is just top tier. So let's go ahead and hit that start button and just jump right into it. For those that played the first Ninja Gaiden, this was a pretty significant upgrade overall. You've got a lot more like glowy, visual, flashy effects and stuff like that. You've got animated backgrounds, which you didn't really have all that much, if at all, in the first game. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't think there were any animated backgrounds in the very first Ninja Gaiden. But yeah, gameplay is relatively similar. Now, there are some slight differences in like hitboxes and stuff like that. So some techniques that you can do in the very first Ninja Gaiden, like jumping and slashing through enemies, is significantly harder to do in this game. And so it's not a technique I use all that much in this one. It is possible technically, but getting it super consistently, like you can in the first game, is much, much more difficult. And so it's just something I don't even bother to do. Now, one new mechanic they introduced in this game is the Shadow Ninja. You can see one trailing behind me right now. Make sure you've got your video player at 60 FPS so you can see that. Basically, it alternates every frame from being on and visible to being off and not visible. So if you're watching at 30 frames a second, you're probably not going to be able to see the effect very well. Either that or it's the Shadow Ninjas are going to look super solid. Now what's really cool about these guys is that they duplicate the attacks that you do. And so you can just annihilate bosses with them, just like that. So basically, I just got right in front of that guy, faced the ninjas towards him, and used my my special fire wheel, or whatever it's called. And that's one of the most satisfying things about Ninja Gaiden 2, and it's the only Ninja Gaiden that I know of that's got the Shadow Ninja. I don't know if any of like the modern Ninja Gaidens have that, but as far as classic Ninja Gaiden, it's the only one that has that, and it's a really great mechanic. And that's actually kind of one thing I appreciate about the Ninja Gaiden series. They weren't like, oh, these Shadow Ninjas, they're so damn cool, let's have them in every other game afterwards. Like Ninja Gaiden 3, which came after, it's kind of its own thing. It's got its own unique mechanics that the other 2 games don't have. And so instead of just rehashing the same old thing over and over again, every Ninja Gaiden has a couple things that let it stand out compared to other Ninja Gaiden games. And for Ninja Gaiden 2, it's the Shadow Ninja. It's the Shadow Ninjas. It's such a great mechanic. Other new mechanics that were added from part 1 are wind-based effects. You'll notice that this is just kind of pushing me in one direction. You can tell which direction it's going to push you in based on which way the snow is blowing, basically. Now, I've been playing this game ever since it came out. I was actually there right away when this game first released. One of my neighbors down the street actually bought this immediately, like probably day one. Maybe not day one, because, you know, releases were kind of weird back then. Like, a lot of it was like word of mouth. Like, yeah, maybe you'd see some advertisements in magazines, but, you know, a lot of times there weren't like firm release dates like there is nowadays. But we got it, my neighbors got it pretty early, and Yeah, so I was able to play this game basically when it was brand new, and like it was the hot stuff. And it was actually one of my first NES action games that was moderately challenging that I actually finished. And I actually finished it for my neighbors, I think before they actually finished it, and I was like 8 years old. So that's a pretty good memory of mine. Let's go ahead and stack these ninjas together and use my fire wheel again. Now with this boss, he likes to fall down, and you have to also contend with the wind effect. Now, these enemies don't do a lot of damage typically, so don't worry about taking damage on these bosses in particular. Like, you know, you can just sit on the wall and just get eaten up by the spiders. It's fine. They're gonna go just walk right past you, and then you can jump off the wall and attack the boss. So, and this is one of my favorite levels in the game. It's got such a cool effect, and it's got a great soundtrack, which makes it fits the scenery perfectly. It's so good. Another quality of life improvement, actually, if you're familiar with the first game, but maybe not part 2, is that you can actually climb up walls now. Whereas in the first game, you had to actually let go of the wall, kind of like do like a little mini hop, and hop up the wall, which was actually really difficult for a lot of people. I didn't mind it. I actually really like it because it adds another layer of, you know, technique that you don't have in some of the other Ninja Gaiden games. But yeah, nice quality of life improvement where you can just climb up and down the walls. And if you get hit while you're on the wall, you don't get knocked off. So it's actually kind of a safety measure too. I think in Ninja Gaiden 1, if you get hit while you're on the wall, there is a chance of you getting knocked off. But that doesn't happen in this one. So you can actually like latch onto a wall and you'll be relatively safe. Now there are a lot of gotcha moments in this game. Which basically requires a little bit of memorization if you want to get through some of these levels without too much trouble. But again, since I've been playing this game since it came out, I have a lot of this stuff memorized. Even when I wasn't into video games as much as I was when I was a kid, like in my 20s, for instance, when I had a couple of other hobbies I was kind of into. I still played games, but not as many, and I had sold off my collection. And was just relying on emulation and stuff like that. I still went back to this game. This is one of those games, like all the Ninja Gaidens, I would still go back to and play through emulation and stuff like that. Because, you know, to me, they're all-time favorites. They're all-time greats for the, you know, the era in particular. Like, these were pretty advanced games, actually, when it came to action titles. And they were definitely pushing the envelope. Now, there's actually an extra life above that guy, but I'm not going to worry about it. You get tons of extra lives in this game. I already have 4 lives right now. Typically, if you get all the extra lives over the course of a playthrough, what'll end up happening is you'll get to the final stage and you'll have like 9 lives. There's a little bit of a damage boost, sequence break. That's actually something that I figured out on my own back in the day. It's one of the other things I love about Ninja Gaiden 2 is you can do stuff like sequence breaking, but it wasn't really that hard to figure out. You know, there is knockback in this game, and you think to yourself, I got knocked back. Wait, can I get knocked up onto that platform? And yes, you can. So I'm using my Shadow Ninja here, just letting him sit in the air, and just timing my attack so it hits this guy when he goes all the way up to the sky, and I don't think that's gonna work. I love, like, how you can just place the Shadow Ninjas around, and it just, it's so good. We didn't even think about doing this stuff back when we were kids. We would just use Ryu, who's our main blue ninja here, and just jump and slash that guy, he'd fall down, and we'd just rinse and repeat, and the fight would be a little tedious. But with the Shadow Ninja, you know, you can get a little more clever with it, which is really satisfying. I mean, I just love it when games allow you to experiment. And there's a couple of, like, really top-end 8-bit era games in particular that allow you to do that. And the Mega Man games are some of the other ones that really, really allow you to experiment. Mega Man, the Ninja Gaiden games, not to as big of a degree as the Mega Mans, because Mega Mans, you get technically 8 different types of weapons, including whatever your defaults are. But Ninja Gaiden, with its flexible movements and whatnot, and the Shadow Ninjas allow you to just get super flexible, and it's so satisfying. Uh-oh, that's not good. See, that's kind of a bad situation. I mean, I actually stand corrected. You do get knocked off when you get hit by an enemy. Whoops, I'm gonna have to actually annotate that. Okay, I really don't want to die, but I just did. That sucks. I never die at that part, and that was all because of like one little mistake. But now you guys get to see me recover, and that's okay. We will recover just fine, I'm sure. So I actually just picked up a scroll. The scrolls actually allow you to raise your Ninpo count, and I haven't actually talked about Ninpo. Ninpo is your special weapon energy. So you've got a bunch of different special weapons over the course of the game. I've got this orange throwing star right now, which you can actually throw and jump over it just like the first game, and it'll just keep spinning around you. It's not quite as satisfying as it is in the first game because of all the Shadow Ninjas on screen, it blinks. Whereas in the first Ninja Gaiden, it's like a super solid, really big shuriken, which is really satisfying in that one. But that's another example of flexibility in this game. You know, you can use that shuriken and just theoretically jump over it for the entire level and just mow enemies down in the process. It's really cool. But yeah, every special weapon that you use uses up a different amount of Ninpo, and that number next to your special weapon on the left-hand side is how much Ninpo you have. And one of the other new mechanics in this game that they introduced is the scrolls. And so every time you pick up a scroll, I believe the Ninpo goes up by 10. Another sequence break damage boost right there. And we're gonna go ahead and just drop down here. Now there are water physics here, so the direction that the water is moving is where you will get pushed. So if you just sit here, it just kind of like pushes you down. You don't even have to walk if you don't want to. I was actually talking about that on my clone system stream, about how like cool the water physics are in this, and you know, it can actually be really tricky to get used to them if you're not used to them, the water physics I should say. But with practice, it starts to just become second nature. Same with the wind mechanics on stage 2. You know, if the wind is going right, just run with the winds, you know? No pun intended, just go, do it, you know, speed up, be fast, be like a ninja. Be one with the winds. I don't know. Yeah, so with this boss, you have to hit him in the head up top, and he's got these arms that come out from the sides, and as you can see, like his first arm comes out from the right, so if you got your Shadow Ninjas, you can just jump, and just keep jumping and keep using whatever projectile you have. Ideally, the throwing star is the way to go there, so instead of like running up and smacking him in the face, and just doing one block of health, you'll do 3 blocks at once, because of your layered Shadow Ninjas. Okay, that was scary. That was really scary, actually. That was super scary. I got really lucky there. Alright, another improvement that they made over the first game is in the first Ninja Gaiden, you start with 0 sub-weapons. And so one thing that was cool in this one is they start you off with the shuriken, the basic shuriken. You got that in the first game, but you had to pick it up separately. In this one, they just give it to you right off the bat, which is pretty awesome. So, you know, if you're struggling with a certain part, you're struggling to recover after like a death, you can use that shuriken to help out a little bit. There's another scroll, so I'm up to 80 Ninpo now. And I don't remember if there's an exact maximum, and that's an extra life that I just got. Obviously don't touch those big spikes, you know, just like a lot of NES games, spikes hurt quite a bit. Thankfully, they don't kill you instantly like a Mega Man game. Like, imagine if Ninja Gaiden, its spikes just killed you right away. Game would be probably a hell of a lot harder than it already is. The cutscene quality is pretty decent in this. I find that the storytelling in Ninja Gaiden 2, it's not as strong as it is in the first game. Maybe the story theme might be cooler to some people, but I don't think the execution is as good as the first game. It doesn't feel quite as mature in its execution. But still, visually, the story still looks really good. Tecmo was just really doing really cool stuff with the NES, with the Ninja Gaiden series in particular. These were, it's kind of hard to imagine these days, but if you were there back in the day, like these games were special. They were very special. And now, again, the improvements in Ninja Gaiden 2 are just really good. Like, just look at like how this whole background, or I should say the foreground, like the icy things that I'm climbing on, how they flash and stuff like that. Like, you had none of that in the first game. The first Ninja Gaiden was like all static, and it was fine for the time. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about Ninja Gaiden 1. It's my favorite Ninja Gaiden game. But there's some stuff that Part 2 just does really, really well, and every time I play the game, I just kind of gawk at it, because it's one of the best looking 8-bit games, period. I can't really think of many others that look better than this game. It's just, from start to finish, it's a looker. So, alright, we're gonna stack our ninjas again, and this is probably bad positioning, and no, it's fine. But yeah, this is Ashtar. He's the villain from the introduction. But yeah, you kill him about halfway through the game, actually a little more than halfway through the game. And then the villain from the first Ninja Gaiden actually comes back, and you have to fight him on the final level in the game. But we're actually already getting kind of close to the end, now I think about it. I think Ashtar is probably more like 75% through the game. And we've got lots of running enemies, lots of flying birds. And some bats. But once you get really familiar with this game, and any Ninja Gaiden game on the NES, while like the birds and fast-running enemies and stuff like that could be a little irritating, you get used to it, and you learn their positions, and you start just mowing right through them. And one of the other things about your special weapons in Ninja Gaiden 2, ooh, another extra life. I always forget about that extra life. It's hidden behind that upper mountainous rocky thing. Yeah, you just end up start ripping through stuff. You're so powerful in this game with your 3 ninja setup that again, you just mow through stuff. You just use your sub-weapons. The sub-weapons are here for a reason. Do not just stash your energy. Don't do that in this game. You're gonna make life a living hell, like literally. Also, another returning boss from the first game. Try to get these ninjas facing in the same direction. Of course, we got a visual upgrade on the boss. Only one of them is actually weak to your attacks, so you have to figure out which one that is. And I've already lost track. That's the one on the left. Okay. 2 more hits. Got him. Now, unfortunately, there's no, like, fast slash glitch or exploit like there is in the first game. In the first game, you could jump and in the air press down and B back to back, and you could slash like super fast, like 5 or 6 times in the air. You can't do that in this one, so that's another reason why being able to really utilize your sub-weapons well with your 3 ninja setup is very important if you want to just mow down bosses almost instantly. I'm getting a little distracted here. One of my cats is just howling in the other room. I meant to shut my game room door, but I also don't like to keep them blocked out of my game room, so I got totally distracted there. I thought, yeah, like one of my cats was actually in my room yelling at me, but he's just in the other room. It's Milo, my male cat. I have 2 cats. I have got Patchouli, who a lot of you guys know, but some of you might not know Milo, who I adopted about 1.5 years ago. And he gets a little restless, and he'll start running around the apartment just howling. And I still haven't quite gotten used to that, because every time he does it, I think he's like panicking, but he's not. He's just like, oh, I just want attention, daddy. It's like, come on, cat. I'm trying to record a video here. My first real playthrough in a couple months now, so. But yeah, this is actually basically our final level. Oops, I thought that was the ladder. I'm a dummy. Again, I'm distracted right now, so. But yeah, this is actually the lead up to the actual final stage. But it's still a part of the final stage. It's 7-1. I'm guessing the next section will be 7-2. And the beginning of 7-2 will be our main checkpoint. And unlike Ninja Gaiden 1, if you die at a boss in this, you actually don't go all the way back to the very beginning of the level in some cases. And this is it, yeah, 7-2. One really interesting thing about 7-2 here is the music that plays is actually randomized. So it just uses music from earlier parts of the playthrough. And actually, I'm going to come back here and grab this, because that gives me all of my Ninpo back. So I didn't actually really talk about the Ninpo icons. You've got blue ones, which give you, I don't know, about 5 or 10 Ninpo. Actually, you know, I think it's 5 in the first game, and I think it's 10 in this one. And you got the orange ones, and the orange ones are special because they give you all your Ninpo back. So if you memorize where the orange Ninpo pickups are, that can actually be really big. So what I like to do here is just wait and time this, just like that. I think there might be an extra life over here. Nope, it's not an extra life, just a sub-weapon. See, my memorization of this game, or my memory of this game, is not 100%, that's for sure. I play a lot of games these days, and there are so many details for me to remember. I don't generally memorize games as well as I used to. But still, this is one of those games where, an extra life right there, this is one of those games where I can still just jump in and just play, and I have a pretty good idea, for the most part, where things are. I try not to stress it too much. But it is satisfying when you do actually know literally like every pickup and every item location, because then you know what to skip, you know what to get, and it just helps your playthrough go a lot faster, and it's more exciting. But, you know, it's whatever for me. Alright, this is the last section. I'm gonna jump over this guy. Not really too worried about taking damage, because there's gonna be a health refill right there. Of course, the bird hits me right after I grab it. Alright, final boss, guys, and it's 3 bosses. So let's see if we can utilize our Shadow Ninjas here. You have to hit them in the star. Now, admittedly, these final bosses can be pretty tricky, but again, if you line up your ninjas properly, it's not too bad, honestly. And dodge his fireballs, a little bit like a shmup. You know, one of the things about these old school action games is that I actually treat them like a shoot 'em up a lot of times now. Like, I look at patterns, I look at projectiles, and I look at the, instead of looking at the projectiles, I look at the gaps. And what I try to do is cut through the gap as if I'm in a space shooter, and I'm trying to, like, weave through bullets. Except I do it with the arc of my ninja jump, or maybe I just move to the left or right on the ground. So I'm literally moving left or right, you know, like in an old school shooter like Galaga or something. So, again, in these action games, Castlevania, I do the exact same thing. Mega Man, I do the same thing. Even Super Mario, I do the same thing. I don't think of projectiles and enemies as, like, I don't focus on the enemy so much as I focus on, okay, where can I fit my character to not take a hit? It's a pretty cool cutscene, but I'm gonna go ahead and skip it, like I said. Now, this part right here seems to give a lot of people trouble. But again, if you use your Shadow Ninjas, it's not too bad. Just gotta hit him in the face. And it's good to just take your time if you can. Now, you'll notice that your health bar does not refill between boss battles. So you do have to be really careful if you want to try to get this on your first try. If you die at that boss, I think you do get sent all the way back to the beginning of 7-2, so you'd have to do 7-2 all over again. Alright, final boss. We're gonna go ahead and just duck this. Let him shoot his projectiles. Get a ninja positioned over there. Just keep attacking like this. Boom, head is gone. Now go for the heart. Nice. Now those projectiles, they don't seem to be quite as random in this as they are in the first Ninja Gaiden. That last boss there, the final boss, is kind of a rehash of the final boss in the first Ninja Gaiden. But there are some extra tweaks to the boss in this one, like he's got those arms that go across the screen, and his head actually will shoot at you. But his projectiles that come out on that last phase are, a lot of times they'll either go to the right or they'll go to the left. Sometimes they go in the middle, but it seems like there's only really 3 states. In Ninja Gaiden 1, the projectiles they just seem to be completely random. So that boss is, if you know, you're doing it sword only, it could be a little more difficult in the first game, I think. Now, one of the things that the Ninja Gaiden series does is it kind of rehashes some of the key moments of the first game, like when you beat the Ninja Gaiden 1, the big temple you go into and you end the game at, it falls apart like this, self-destructs basically. Does the same thing in Ninja Gaiden 2. Arguably, it might look cooler in part 2. You know, it's got that big skull up front, so it's like... I actually kind of like Ninja Gaiden 1, where, like, the final temple, it's not obvious, like, it's this big, evil place, you know, whereas this, it's like, it's plain as day. There's this huge skull out front. It's like a Mega Man fortress, you know? I like how, in the first game, they're not trying to make it obvious, like, it's a, you know, devilish, evil headquarters or something like that. Ninja Gaiden 1 is a lot more realistic, I feel, and that's one of the reasons I really enjoy its story, you know, down to its, like, CIA subplot and stuff like that. Ninja Gaiden 2 is a little more on the nose, if you will. It's still a phenomenal game, though. Again, like I said, I think it's one of the best action games of the era. Man, I'm trying to think of other, like, action games that stand as tall as this game. I'd say Shatterhand is probably one of them. Obviously the Castlevania games, Mega Man 2 and 3, you know, stuff like that. But Ninja Gaiden 2 is, it's awesome. So you can't actually skip through the ending, so we'll go ahead and just let that play out. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that playthrough. Again, man, it only took 25 minutes or so. Yeah, if you skip through all the cutscenes, the games can be relatively short if you know what you're doing and you can just cut right through the enemies instead of, like, dying over and over again. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this playthrough. You know, again, it's been about 2 months since my last quick play, and this was a good warm-up. Hopefully you guys, you know, appreciate this sort of content. I do have a couple of other things planned. I wasn't actually planning on doing Ninja Gaiden 2, but I went to go get breakfast this morning, and I was like, man, I haven't done a quick play in 2 months. Like, what am I going to do? And I was like, man, I really want to play Ninja Gaiden 2 again. I know I've covered it a ton on my channel, but, you know, it's retro video games, you know? The games are short, you're gonna eventually just, like, end up doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, I play the same games all the time, and so this is really easy for me to just, like, pick up and have a go at, and hopefully it's fun for you guys to watch, especially you guys that aren't maybe as familiar with this game. Maybe you played it growing up, but maybe you haven't really played it since, or you've only dabbled with it on and off. So hopefully watching someone that's actually played it on and off constantly over the years since its release is entertaining. Hopefully my familiarity with the game is entertaining, so... but yeah, I actually do have a couple of things I want to do. I wanted to try to do some more Game Boy games. I've actually been playing some Game Boy games on my Super Game Boy through the Super NT, and specifically Solar Striker. I actually learned how to beat that game a couple weeks ago. Castlevania Adventure, Operation C, maybe a Mega Man Game Boy game. Again, some of those are games I've already covered before, others aren't, so... But, I think the last time I covered some of those... Oh, Super Mario Land! Super Mario Land with its second loop. Some of those games I covered, like, 7 or 8 years ago now, so I think a lot of them are actually due for an updated... they're due for updated playthroughs, so... that's gonna be my plan, along with the usual live streams. I've got another game or two. Actually, by the time this video goes live, I think I will have already streamed the game in mind. Specifically Illusion of Gaia for Super Nintendo, so I actually finished that one just the other night. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you have any old school short action games that you'd like to see covered here, feel free to drop some requests down in the comment section below. Be it, I don't know, Master System, NES, Game Boy, Game Gear, stuff like that. Stuff that's kind of like, it doesn't take forever for me to try to learn, assuming I don't already know the game. But yeah, I'd be curious to see what you guys would like to see on these dedicated quick plays. So, but yeah, guys, that's gonna do it for me. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this right here. But yeah, Ninja Gaiden 2, Dark Sword of Chaos, just awesome, awesome game. If you're, for some reason, just now like getting into 8-bit stuff, you gotta play the Ninja Gaiden games. They're awesome, awesome games. Challenging games, don't get me wrong, they are difficult games. But once you master them, they're some of the most satisfying action games ever, I'd say. Like, even to this day, they're still really, really great fun when you dial them in and really know what you're doing. So it's one reason I always go back to them on my channel, is they're just so much fun to play. Like, if I ever do NES variety streams, I always have to toss in a Ninja Gaiden game, because they're satisfying, they're fun to show off, and I think people like to watch them. They're fun to watch. So, but yeah, if you've never played it before, or any of these, you gotta play these. And there's our temple again. How do we not see that on, like, satellite imagery? I don't know. Anyway, guys, I digress. Have yourselves a fantastic day or night, wherever you are in the world. And until the next one, take it easy.